dating back to last year, where I eventually went to College Station and I got to experience their atmosphere firsthand. And it was kind of on the heels of their weird midnight yell. Dan can attest to this. I've been obsessed with Texas A&M football for the last 2 years. I bet them every game. I think the world of the talent on that team, and I think their season fell apart this year in large part due to losing Connor Wegman. But it finally happened yesterday. The much-rumored, much discussed Jimbo Fisher hypothetical firing stopped being a hypothetical, and the impossible has happened. And whenever anyone talked about Jimbo Fisher, they talked about, well, it's a buyout. You can't get away from that buyout. You're just going to have to suffer through this.
It's insane. It's 4 times as much as the previous largest buyout. It's a crazy amount of money.
Mike, I have a great stat here. Jimbo Fisher will get paid more to not coach than Jameis Winston has been paid to play in the NFL. That's amazing.
That's unbelievable. And Jimbo Fisher went out and put up a 50-burger. Coincidentally, the team that was on the receiving end of that 50-burger also fired their coach this morning because I guess if Jimbo's getting fired after that performance, we got to fire our coach too.
Are they firing him because Weigman is coming back and because he can win a couple of games and they don't want the pressure before recruiting of winning a couple of games because the starting quarterback, the one quarterback he's had there who got hurt is the one who's coming back now?
I think they fired Jimbo Fisher because of the last few seasons. Because he had all the resources in the world, great talent. If you look at their composite ratings, the greatest recruiting class, I think, ever on the heels of a 2020 season. If you look back, way back in the Wayback Machine, 2020, people thought Mike Norvell was a horrible hire, and they thought Texas A&M was coming for everybody's stuff. They just won an Orange Bowl. Look how much the world has changed since then. But I wonder if Jimbo got a little nervous as the results got worse, and even though he was having a good game, changed the quarterback, their offense looks good. At halftime, this happens. We're going to throw up a still image right now of a donation that the Texas A&M athletic department received. And this is not a number that you sneeze at. $160 million. $160 million. That is crazy.
It's why they can buy him out.
Yeah, no, what they did at halftime was just announce, we're firing Jimbo. Here is this big oversized check. But I don't want to ignore the last tactical expertise that Jimbo left us with before he got fired.
Stugotz, have you seen this?
Yes.
Now, I mentioned that he changed the quarterback. Max Johnson's terrible. Just not his fault. Just has his limitations. His big failure is that he's not as good as a previous guy. That's what Max Johnson's big. Also he sucks. But he hasn't done that much wrong. So they're trying to catch Mississippi State by surprise, and they put out a phony Max Johnson to warm up because there's all sorts of mystery as to who's starting at quarterback for Texas A&M. Complete with a hat, the jersey number on this training, and he's throwing lefty. They put out a fake Max Johnson, a chef's kiss of tactical strategy from Jimbo Fisher.
It did work.
You don't fire that guy after that. You wait till he drops another disappointing game, which will inevitably happen to Jimbo Fisher. That right there, and I don't throw around this word.
He's starting to get
this word lightly. Genius. If anything, that's an encouraging sign. Maybe patience.
It's just a left-handed person that they put on the field.
So who is this guy? I'm missing the point here. So he sends out a fake quarterback to warm up for what reason?
He's got the Uncle Rico throwing motion. How is he fooling anybody?
It's because he's left-handed and because Max Johnson is left-handed, and they just wanted to confuse. They didn't know. They wanted no one to know who to prepare for. Either their terrible backup quarterback that usually starts or the one who they put in who was then a good deal better than Max Johnson.
So the resources over at Texas A&M have been a big-time talking point for several years now, and Johnny Football is right to say, I totally transformed that town. He did. College Station is, as for the town that it is, unrecognizable from where it was.
That check is crazy for that.
Right. Have you...
place for the boosters at that school are enormous, and the oil money at that school is crazy.
Have you found out through the reports out there who their internally dream candidate is?
Is it Urban Meyer?
It has to be. I think it should be Urban Meyer.
Stugotz has been arguing.
It's Dan Campbell.
No.
It's
no
Dan
way.
Campbell.
Well, he's not leaving. I mean, why would he leave the Lions?
Such a good one.
I think he went to Texas A&M.
10 years. I give you 10 years. You've rehabbed the entirety of your life.
He's looking at that as like, if I fail, I can go back to the pro game. It's kind of like a bizarro college thing where the college coaches go to the pros and are like, I can be a disaster, but I'm Bobby Petrino. You'll welcome me back with open arms in the college ranks. Maybe it's a bizarro thing with Dan Campbell, but he is the leading dream candidate right now.
Well, no, I think he looks at it as, if I fail, I never have to work again. Yeah. Ever.
Right. Yes.
I don't need to be rehabbed. I don't need to go to the NFL. I will be paid $76 million to go vacation forever.
Me and Billy came up with what Jimbo should do next. Like, his next move is very simple. Me and Billy agree on this. Yeah. Go down to the Big Chill, talk to Jimmy, give him his real estate agent, go out and buy a house over in the Keys, right on the water, get a nice little boat. Relájate. Don't worry about it. Olvídate.
He's freshly divorced, 58 years old. He earned it. I mean, he didn't earn it, but he earned it.
There is option B, which is it's not the first time that Nick Saban would hire somebody that he beefed with.
Why go to Alabama? You have
He's
the
not
keys
going to
right
Nick
there.
Saban.
Why do
He's
you
stuck
like
with
Nick
Tommy Reese
Saban?
out there,
Mike,
the Nick Saban rehabilitation
You have
program.
$76 million. You want to deal with Nick Saban?
Exactly right.
You want to be the boss?
He's done it
yelled at?
before.
No.
He can do it again.
No.
Oh, come on. 2 years over there with Jalen Milroe. He'll get the next big job. Hell, Texas A&M may hire him again. That's the way this goes when you go to Alabama.
I thought the Alabama thing was done, and they're back again, and they're not as terrible as they looked at the beginning of the season when we pounced and we're like, they don't have a quarterback. I want to get back to Stugotz, the details on this Jimbo Fisher buyout.
Yeah.
Because I will remind you that very recently college sports were behaving as if they weren't a giant business that could have so much money everywhere that they can buy out a thoroughly mediocre SEC coach, like wildly mediocre, for $76 million. That's not just $76 million, Stugotz, because that detail enough. Jimbo Fisher getting $76 million is amazing enough by itself, but how he's getting it, Stugotz, doesn't have precedent in the history of American sports, okay? It really doesn't, and certainly not college sports. Within 60 days, Texas A&M has to give him $19.4 million in the next 60 days.
Right.
In the next 120 days, they got to give him another $7.2 million. The entirety of his contract is such, Stugotz, that even if he gets another job, there's no offset clause. Jimbo Fisher got such a leveraged deal because he was so coveted because he had Jameis Winston, the only quarterback he's ever had. He made Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston made him. And since then, he hasn't had a developed quarterback. Always has great recruiting classes, always 500. Hasn't won any big games, any road games, any close games. All he does is lose in a way that embarrasses Texas A&M, which has so much money that they can afford to run him off. And the money's all guaranteed, Stugotz. And it's not offset, according to Darren Ravel, if he gets another job. So he runs the possibility of getting a pay raise for all of this because he will have another.
If he wants to work.
Well, if he wants to work at all, he will have another job that also pays him a great deal of money.
It's an amazing gig. Would you want to work? Like if you were guaranteed $76 million over the next, 6 years or so, would you want to work at all? And that's going to be interesting to see what he does. He doesn't have to.
But it depends on whether you love your job or not, right? Because otherwise I would have retired already. I would have retired already as a single man all my life if I didn't love my job. Jimbo Fisher is someone.
It's a hell of a flex.
No, I'm just.
I get the point, but
Attaboy, Dano.
good for you.
It's a hell of a flex, though. It was.
Good, no, I
Loving the
don't.
game.
No, but it's not that. It's just enough to live comfortably. It's enough to live. I'm not going to be living like Jimbo Fisher. This is.
Well, he has no kids, so he doesn't have to worry about the next generation of Le Batards, is what he's saying. That's a big deal.
I've just been single all my life, is what I'm saying, and
That'll do it.
until the last 5 years, and I haven't had to spend a lot of money on things. And because of that, if I didn't love what it is we were doing for work, I would have stopped working already and gone to be with my wife and just travel and stuff. I don't know what the answer to this is, but Jimbo Fisher can get work again. I just can't believe that as a pedestrian a coach as Jimbo Fisher is, that this is the cost. Like this I mean, how do you
Well, it's the
how do
contract.
you have the money? This is a middling SEC school.
Crude oil futures.